Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, two names, one dark connection. Our investigation cuts through the noise to lay out the documented facts of their relationship. Epstein, a financier with mysterious wealth and elite connections, hid a predatory double life that the justice system failed to fully expose. Trump and Epstein's friendship thrived in exclusive circles but soured amid scandal, leaving behind a trail of questions and speculation. Epstein's 2019 arrest and sudden death ended hopes for a full reckoning, leaving his powerful network shrouded in suspicion. Epstein's carefully crafted image masked a predatory empire built on exploitation, his true nature only revealed when his world collapsed. A single call in Palm Beach exposed Epstein's systematic abuse, sparking a fierce legal battle between victims and a billionaire's legal machine. The case against Jeffrey Epstein took a stunning and controversial turn. Instead of a federal trial, a secret deal was struck. In 2007, Epstein's lawyers began negotiating directly with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami. The lead prosecutor was Alexander Acosta, who would later become Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor. These negotiations happened behind closed doors. The victims and their lawyers were not included. They were not even told that a deal was being considered. The secrecy surrounding these talks would become a major point of contention and scandal for years to come, casting a long shadow over the justice system. The result was a non-prosecution agreement. This document, signed in 2008, was incredibly lenient. It granted immunity from all federal criminal charges to Epstein. It also granted immunity to any potential co-conspirators. This included 4 named women and any and all potential employees, associates, and agents of Epstein. In exchange, Epstein agreed to plead guilty to 2 lesser state charges in Florida. One of these charges involved soliciting a prostitute who was under 18. The deal effectively shut down the sprawling federal investigation that could have exposed the full extent of his trafficking network and implicated his powerful associates. The terms of his punishment were also remarkably light. He was sentenced to 18 months in a county jail, not a federal prison. He ended up serving only 13 months. During that time, he was granted work release privileges. This allowed him to leave the jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He spent his days in a private office that he had rented nearby. For many, this was not a real punishment. It was a comfortable arrangement that allowed a wealthy, well-connected predator to avoid any real consequences for his crimes. The deal was a slap on the wrist, a sweetheart deal that seemed designed to protect him. The victims were outraged when they learned of the agreement. They felt betrayed by the very prosecutors who were supposed to protect them. They argued that the deal was not only unjust, but also illegal, because it was made without their knowledge. In the years that followed, they fought to have the agreement overturned. Their legal battle would eventually bring the details of the secret deal to light. It exposed how a powerful man had seemingly manipulated the justice system to his advantage. The 2008 non-prosecution agreement became a symbol of a two-tiered system of justice, one for the rich and powerful, and another for everyone else. After a brief sentence, Jeffrey Epstein returned to his life of luxury. For 10 years, he lived in impunity, socializing with the global elite and traveling the world. The victims did not forget, left with trauma and a failed justice system. The story faded from the spotlight, but some victims refused to be silenced. Investigative journalists and lawyers kept digging, determined to expose the truth. Their work laid the groundwork for the scandal's return to the public. This period demonstrates the power of wealth to suppress a story. Epstein's freedom resulted from a calculated legal strategy. In November 2018, the Miami Herald published Perversion of Justice, detailing Epstein's victim stories. The series reignited public outrage, leading to a new federal investigation. Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta resigned due to scrutiny over his prior involvement. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested and charged with sex trafficking. Facing a life sentence, Epstein was found dead in his jail cell a month later, leaving many questions unanswered. The story of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein often begins in Palm Beach at Trump's exclusive Mar-a-Lago club. Epstein became a member in the 90s. The club served as a key backdrop for their interactions. A photo from 2000 shows Trump and Melania alongside Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at a Mar-a-Lago party. The Mar-a-Lago connection establishes the foundation of their relationship. This shared history provides essential context. Trump and Epstein shared a vibrant social scene in 1990s New York, moving in elite circles. Their paths crossed at exclusive parties and galas. A video shows them together at a 1992 Mar-a-Lago party, laughing and talking. This glimpse highlights their camaraderie. Understanding this shared social life is a critical piece of the puzzle. In 2002, Jeffrey Epstein was profiled in New York Magazine. The article, titled "Jeffrey Epstein, International Moneyman of Mystery," included a quote from Donald Trump. Trump's words have become a key piece of evidence regarding their relationship. Trump said, "I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." This statement has been intensely scrutinized since Epstein's crimes came to light. The 2002 profile is a critical artifact, capturing Trump's feelings about Epstein before the scandal. A central and enduring element of the Trump-Epstein narrative involves a private jet. Epstein's Boeing 727, famously nicknamed the Lolita Express by the media, has been the subject of intense investigation. Flight logs from the jet, which have been made public through court proceedings, document the travel of Epstein and his many powerful guests. These logs have become a key piece of evidence for researchers and journalists trying to map the full extent of Epstein's network. The presence of a person's name on these logs suggests a level of closeness with Epstein, as travel on a private jet is typically reserved for trusted friends and associates. Donald Trump's name appears in these flight logs. Publicly available records show that Trump flew on Epstein's jet on at least one occasion in the 1990s. The specific flight was from Palm Beach to New York. This documented trip provides concrete evidence that their association included private travel, moving beyond the public setting of parties and clubs. While there is no evidence that Trump was involved in any of Epstein's alleged criminal activities on the plane, the flight itself confirms a significant level of familiarity. It is one thing to see someone at a party, it is another to fly with them on their private aircraft. Trump has acknowledged flying on Epstein's plane. However, his accounts have sometimes seemed to downplay the significance. He has stated that he flew with him on one occasion, and that it was a routine trip. He has emphasized that he was not aware of any wrongdoing and simply accepted a ride. The context of these flights remains a subject of debate. The logs themselves only provide names, dates, and locations. They do not describe what happened during the flights. This lack of detail has allowed for rampant speculation, but the core fact remains: Donald Trump was a passenger on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. The flight log controversy is important because it provides a tangible link that is hard to dispute. While memories of parties can be fuzzy, and quotes can be debated, a flight manifest is a piece of data. It anchors the relationship in a specific time and place. For many, Trump's presence on that plane, regardless of the circumstances, places him within Epstein's inner circle during that era. It raises questions about what he might have seen or known. The flight logs are a stark black and white reminder of a connection that both men, for different reasons, would later have cause to downplay or redefine. While their friendship was well documented throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein did not last. At some point in the mid-2000s, the two men had a falling out. The end of their association is a key part of the timeline, occurring before Epstein's first arrest and lenient plea deal in Florida. According to Trump and several other sources, he banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club. This act of severing ties suggests a serious dispute, a definitive end to the years of friendly socializing at the Palm Beach resort and in New York City. The precise reason for this falling out remains a matter of some dispute, with different accounts circulating over the years. The most commonly cited reason, put forward by Trump and others, involves an incident at Mar-a-Lago. According to this version of events, Epstein made an inappropriate advance toward the teenage daughter of a club member. This behavior allegedly angered Trump, who then personally barred Epstein from the property. If true, this account would portray Trump as taking decisive action against Epstein's predatory behavior years before law enforcement did. It positions him as a protector of his club's members rather than an accomplice to Epstein's lifestyle. Another version of the story suggests the dispute was over a business deal. Some reports have claimed the falling out was related to a real estate transaction where both men were competing to buy the same mansion in Palm Beach. In this telling, the friendship ended not over a moral issue, but over a financial rivalry. This account paints a less heroic picture of Trump's motivations. It suggests the break was simply a case of two powerful and competitive men clashing over an asset. The truth may be a combination of factors, or it may be one of these versions over the other. Without definitive proof, the exact cause remains unclear. Regardless of the specific reason, the falling out is a crucial event. It marks a clear endpoint to their public friendship. Trump's supporters point to it as evidence that he recognized something was wrong with Epstein and distanced himself accordingly. Critics, however, question the timing and the motive, suggesting it may have been more about business or preserving the reputation of his club. The ban from Mar-a-Lago effectively ended their social relationship. It created a separation between the two men that would later become a central talking point for Trump when he was forced to address his history with the disgraced financier. After Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, his past associations with powerful people came under scrutiny. As president, Donald Trump faced questions about their history. He downplayed their relationship, calling it a casual acquaintance limited to Palm Beach. This contrasted sharply with a 2002 magazine profile where he called Epstein a terrific guy. Trump expressed sympathy for the victims, stating, "I'm not a fan of his." Trump claimed ignorance of Epstein's crimes, positioning himself as deceived. This distancing highlights the conflict in their relationship. Documented history versus later denials. The contradiction fuels public fascination. Observers must weigh the history against the denials. The legal saga of Jeffrey Epstein began with a phone call to Palm Beach police in 2005. A parent reported their 14-year-old stepdaughter had been sexually assaulted by a wealthy middle-aged man, Jeffrey Epstein. The police began investigating the financier who lived in a sprawling mansion. The investigation uncovered a disturbing pattern of abuse. Young women described being recruited and paid for massage sessions at Epstein's estate, which they alleged were a pretext for sexual assault. By 2006, police had compiled a 53-page affidavit recommending felony charges. The FBI joined the investigation, but the case was about to take an unexpected turn. Jeffrey Epstein's legal team negotiated a controversial non-prosecution agreement, NPA, with Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney in Miami. This secret deal, excluding the victims, guaranteed no federal charges in Florida for Epstein and astonishingly granted immunity to his co-conspirators. In return, Epstein pled guilty to lesser state charges, served only 13 months with work release, and continued conducting business. The NPA sparked outrage, symbolizing a two-tiered justice system, shielding Epstein for over a decade while his victims suffered. Following the 2008 non-prosecution agreement, a strange quiet descended upon the Epstein case. He served his short sentence and was registered as a sex offender. The victims, led by attorney Bradley Edwards, refused to let the matter rest. Simultaneously, investigative journalist Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald began a painstaking investigation into the case. The turning point came in November 2018 with the publication of Brown's series, Perversion of Justice. The Miami Herald investigation laid bare the entire sordid affair for a national audience. Federal prosecutors announced they were opening a new criminal investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Alexander Acosta was forced to resign from his cabinet post in July 2019. On July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein's private jet landed in New Jersey, where he was met and arrested by FBI agents. 2 days later, federal prosecutors unsealed a damning indictment, charging Epstein with sex trafficking of minors. The indictment alleged a vast network to abuse underage girls at his residences. The arrest set off speculation about who else might be implicated. Epstein pleaded not guilty, but the judge denied bail, deeming him a flight risk. He was held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center to await trial. The legal proceedings against Jeffrey Epstein took a shocking and final turn. On August 10, 2019, just over a month after his arrest, he was found unresponsive in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, a high-security federal jail in Manhattan. He was transported to a nearby hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The New York City Medical Examiner officially ruled the cause of death as a suicide by hanging. The news was, honestly, just stunning. The government's star defendant in one of the most high-profile sex trafficking cases in recent history was dead, and the promise of a public trial died with him. The circumstances surrounding his death immediately sparked a firestorm of outrage and suspicion. Epstein had been placed on suicide watch weeks earlier after being found semi-conscious in his cell with injuries to his neck, but he had been taken off it shortly before his death. On the night he died, established protocols at the MCC were reportedly not followed. 2 guards assigned to his unit were allegedly sleeping and had falsified records to cover their neglect. Furthermore, 2 cameras in the hallway outside his cell had malfunctioned. These stunning failures of security fueled a wave of conspiracy theories, with many finding it difficult to believe that such a high-value prisoner could die without assistance. Epstein's death was a catastrophic blow to his victims. They had waited for over a decade for the chance to confront their abuser in a court of law. A trial would have provided a public platform for their stories to be heard, and for the full extent of his crimes to be exposed. His suicide denied them this opportunity for catharsis and legal closure. While the criminal case against Epstein himself was now closed, prosecutors vowed to continue their investigation. They pledged to pursue any co-conspirators who may have participated in his sex trafficking ring, promising that Epstein's death would not end the quest for justice. The aftermath of his death was chaotic. The Department of Justice opened multiple investigations into the security lapses at the MCC. The 2 guards responsible for monitoring Epstein were charged with conspiracy and filing false records, though they later reached a plea deal. Attorney General William Barr condemned the serious irregularities at the facility. Despite the official ruling of suicide, the questions and doubts lingered. Epstein's death ensured that many of the darkest secrets of his life, particularly concerning the potential involvement of other powerful individuals, would likely remain buried forever, leaving a permanent cloud of suspicion over the entire case. After Jeffrey Epstein's death, a civil lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell moved forward. Judges ordered the unsealing of thousands of pages of documents related to the case. Maxwell was arrested in 2020 and charged with sex trafficking. Her trial began in 2021, and she was found guilty on 5 of 6 counts. Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The full list of Epstein's powerful clients has never been exposed. The complete picture of Epstein's enterprise remains partially obscured. When Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in July 2019, the media spotlight immediately swiveled to his most powerful associates. As the sitting president, Donald Trump faced intense pressure to address his history with Epstein. "I was not a fan of his," Trump stated, seeking to create as much distance as possible. This was a clear effort to get ahead of a story that linked him to Epstein. This statement was a stark reversal of his past praise, when he had called Epstein a terrific guy. Trump claimed, "I had a falling out with him, I haven't spoken to him in 15 years. He explained, "I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him." Trump also expressed sympathy for the victims, a necessary component of any public statement. The core message was clear: the friendship was long over, he was never a fan. In July 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested. During a White House press conference, President Trump was asked about Maxwell. His response generated controversy. Trump said, "I've met her numerous times over the years, I wish her well, frankly." The comment sent shockwaves. Wishing someone accused of sexual abuse well was seen as inappropriate. He then brought up Epstein's death. He claimed he wasn't a fan of Epstein, yet offered warm wishes to Maxwell, creating a contradictory message. The statement further entangled him in the Epstein web. In August 2020, Trump was asked about the QAnon conspiracy theory, which alleges Democrats operate a child sex trafficking ring. Trump praised QAnon's followers. This set the stage for explosive claims about the Epstein case. He began to reframe the Epstein narrative, suggesting the focus was a politically motivated fabrication. Marjorie Taylor Greene claimed the Epstein scandal was a hoax. This undermined the reality of the entire case. The real victims were not the young women abused by Epstein, but powerful men like Trump. The notion that the Epstein scandal was a hoax or a political setup, amplified by Trump's allies and his own rhetoric, was met with immediate and forceful pushback. Victims' advocates, journalists, and legal experts condemned the narrative as a grotesque distortion of reality. They pointed out that Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted sex offender whose crimes were extensively documented by law enforcement and corroborated by the powerful testimony of dozens of women. To suggest that his well-documented history of abuse was a fabrication was seen as a profound insult to the victims, who had fought for years to have their stories heard and believed. The evidence against the hoax claim was overwhelming. There were 2 separate federal indictments in 2 different jurisdictions, years apart. There was a guilty plea in Florida. There was the conviction of his chief accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, based on the testimony of multiple accusers. The paper trail of legal documents, victim statements, and investigative reporting stretched back over 15 years. This was not a shadowy conspiracy theory, it was a heavily adjudicated legal matter. The attempt to rebrand it as a political hoax ignored this mountain of factual evidence in favor of a narrative that served a specific political purpose for the president. Faced with this backlash, the White House engaged in a form of clarification, though not a full retraction. Officials and supporters argued that Trump's focus was on the political motivations of his opponents, who they claimed were using the Epstein connection as a weapon against him. They insisted he was not denying the reality of Epstein's crimes but rather the legitimacy of the questions about his own involvement. This was a subtle but important distinction. The argument became that the hoax was not the abuse itself, but the attempt to link Trump to it. It was an effort to walk back the most extreme interpretation while still maintaining the core of the political grievance. This clarification, however, did little to quell the controversy. The damage had been done. By flirting with the language of conspiracy and hoax, Trump had injected a powerful dose of misinformation into an already complex and sensitive case. He had provided his followers with a framework to dismiss any and all reporting on his connections to Epstein as fake news. This strategy successfully muddied the waters, making it more difficult for the public to have a fact-based conversation about the issue. The pushback highlighted the deep chasm between the documented facts of the case and the alternate reality being constructed for political defense. Donald Trump's public comments on the Epstein case, from his initial denials to his controversial well wishes for Maxwell, reveal a consistent and multi-pronged defensive strategy. The primary tactic was deflection. Whenever confronted with a difficult question about his own past, he would quickly pivot to another topic. He would shift the focus to his political opponents, the so-called fake news media, or the suspicious circumstances of Epstein's death. This technique was designed to change the subject and throw reporters off balance, preventing a sustained inquiry into his own conduct and knowledge. It was a classic crisis management tool used to control the narrative. The second key element of his strategy was redefinition. He actively worked to redefine the nature of his relationship with Epstein. What was once a terrific 15-year friendship was systematically downplayed into a casual, unavoidable acquaintance common to anyone living in Palm Beach society. He redefined the end of their relationship not as a simple falling out, but as a moral stand he took years before anyone else. This redefinition of the past was crucial. It allowed him to construct a more favorable version of events, one where he was not a friend of a predator but an early and discerning critic who saw the danger and acted decisively. A third, more aggressive tactic was the embrace of conspiracy. By signaling his approval of QAnon followers and questioning the official story of Epstein's death, he tapped into a deep well of public distrust. This allowed him to frame the entire Epstein inquiry as part of a larger sinister plot against him. It transformed him from a potential subject of investigation into the primary victim of a political witch hunt. This move was particularly effective with his base, providing them with a powerful reason to dismiss any negative information about his connection to Epstein. It was a way of inoculating his supporters against the facts. Ultimately, this three-part strategy of deflection, redefinition, and conspiracy proved to be a powerful shield. It successfully created enough confusion, doubt, and partisan anger to obscure the simple, documented facts of his long association with Jeffrey Epstein. The goal was not necessarily to convince everyone, but to create a thick fog of misinformation that would make a clear verdict impossible. By constantly changing the story, attacking the credibility of the media, and aligning himself with fringe theories, Trump managed to turn a story about his past judgment into just another battle in the ongoing culture war, a strategy he had honed over many years. A key contradiction involves time. In 2002, Trump said, "I've known Jeff for 15 years, but post-2019 claimed, I haven't spoken to him in 15 years. These statements clash. The 2002 statement suggests a long-term connection. The later claim creates distance. The facts shift depending on when the question was posed. This remains a potent contradiction. The most glaring contradiction lies in Trump's own words used to describe Jeffrey Epstein. In 2002, his description was unambiguous and glowing. Terrific guy, a lot of fun to be with. Fast forward to July 2019. With Epstein in federal custody, Trump asserted to reporters, "I was not a fan of his." The shift from terrific guy to not a fan is a chasm of meaning, a total reversal of opinion. What changed? Was his 2002 assessment a lie, or was his 2019 statement a form of political damage control? It exposes the fragility of public statements and a willingness to completely redefine a past relationship to suit the needs of the present moment. Trump and Epstein's falling out has two conflicting narratives. a moral stand or a business dispute over money and ego. The latter centers on a 2004 auction of a Palm Beach mansion, the Maison de l'Amitié, where both were interested. These conflicting explanations create an unanswered question. What was the real reason for the break? This contradiction matters because it goes to the heart of Trump's character and judgment. The unresolved nature of their falling out obscures our understanding of what Trump truly knew about his friend. Beyond the specific contradictions in timelines and statements, lies a broader, more troubling set of unanswered questions. Given their long association, what did Donald Trump see and hear during his years of friendship with Jeffrey Epstein? They socialized for over a decade in environments notorious for their wild parties and hedonistic atmosphere. They were photographed together surrounded by women. Trump himself commented in 2002 that Epstein likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. This comment alone suggests he was aware of at least one key aspect of Epstein's lifestyle. The question of what Trump might have witnessed is not an accusation of complicity, but an inquiry into his awareness. Did he ever see behavior that crossed a line? Did he ever hear rumors or first-hand accounts of Epstein's activities with underage girls? In the close-knit, gossipy world of Palm Beach society, it is difficult to imagine that Epstein's proclivities were a complete secret. Several accounts from former Mar-a-Lago staff and members suggest that Epstein's interest in young women was well known. It is a crucial, yet perhaps unanswerable question whether these rumors ever reached the ears of the club's owner. Trump has always maintained his complete ignorance of any criminal behavior. He has insisted he knew Epstein only as a successful financier who was a fixture on the social scene. This claim of total unawareness is a central pillar of his defense. To admit to knowing anything more would open a Pandora's box of difficult questions about why he did not act sooner or report what he knew. His position is one of plausible deniability, a firm insistence that he was as deceived as everyone else. This stance is difficult to either prove or disprove, leaving it in the realm of speculation. This is perhaps the most profound and unsettling, unanswered question of the entire saga. It hangs over every photograph, every quote, and every documented interaction. We know they were friends. We know they partied together. We know Trump was aware of Epstein's preference for younger women. But the line between that knowledge and an awareness of criminal predatory abuse remains blurry and undefined. The full truth of what Donald Trump saw, heard, and understood during his years in Jeffrey Epstein's orbit may be a secret that he takes with him to his grave. The arrest and conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell solved one part of the Epstein puzzle, while leaving another shrouded in mystery. For Donald Trump, his connection to Maxwell creates its own set of contradictions. On one hand, he has sought to distance himself from Epstein. On the other, his comments about Maxwell have been surprisingly warm. When asked about her 2020 arrest, he said, "I wish her well." This statement was jarring, an expression of personal sympathy for a woman accused of being the chief architect of Epstein's sex trafficking ring. It seemed to undermine his efforts to separate himself from the entire sordid affair. The unanswered question is why he would offer such a comment. Why risk the political fallout of wishing well a figure so reviled? Was it a simple, off-the-cuff remark, an unguarded moment of sympathy for someone he knew from his past life? Or did it signal something deeper? Some have speculated it was a message, a signal of loyalty to a woman who holds the secrets of many powerful men. Others suggest it was simply an example of Trump's tendency to show solidarity with wealthy, embattled figures from his own social class, a kind of tribal loyalty that transcends the specifics of their alleged crimes. Trump's relationship with Maxwell is less documented than his friendship with Epstein, but they clearly knew each other. They were photographed together on multiple occasions, including the famous 2000 photo at Mar-a-Lago. She was a key fixture in Epstein's world, and by extension, a part of the social scene that Trump inhabited. His "wish her well" comment suggests a degree of familiarity that goes beyond a passing acquaintance. It creates a contradiction. He claims he was never a fan of Epstein, yet he offers public support for his closest alleged co-conspirator. This inconsistency has never been adequately explained. Ultimately, Ghislaine Maxwell remains a gatekeeper of secrets. Her trial focused on her own culpability and the testimony of her victims, but it did not fully expose the broader network of men who participated in Epstein's world. What does she know about Donald Trump's interactions with Epstein? What might she have witnessed at Mar-a-Lago or in New York? These are questions that will likely never be answered in a court of law. Her silence, coupled with Trump's bizarrely supportive comment, leaves a final, lingering cloud of suspicion. The enigma of Ghislaine Maxwell ensures that the full story of Trump, Epstein, and their shared world remains incomplete. The public record provides a verdict. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein shared a significant, long-term social relationship that spanned at least 15 years. This is documented in photographs, confirmed by Trump's own words, and solidified by flight logs. The evidence paints a clear picture of two powerful men moving in the same elite circles. The claim that Trump barely knew him is contradicted by this extensive public record. The verdict, a close and friendly association did, in fact, exist for many years. This creates the central tension, the chasm between the relationship that was and what Trump later claimed it to be. The facts on record are clear. While the public record confirms a friendship, it falls silent on the most disturbing questions. There is no public evidence that places Donald Trump in the room where Jeffrey Epstein committed his crimes. This is the domain of the great unknown. What did Trump witness during his years of socializing with Epstein? The truth of what happened in that jail cell, and the secrets Epstein took with him, may be forever lost to history. The proven facts are that Trump and Epstein were friends. The great unknown is what Trump truly understood about Epstein. The story of Donald Trump's response to the Epstein scandal is a masterclass in the art of narrative control. It demonstrates how a powerful public figure can use their platform to challenge and reshape a damaging set of facts. Trump did not simply deny the story, he waged a full-scale war against it. He deployed a sophisticated strategy of deflection, redefinition, and conspiracy to create a thick fog of confusion and doubt. His goal was not to win a debate on the facts, but to make a fact-based debate impossible. By doing so, he sought to transform a personal scandal into a political battle, a terrain where he felt much more comfortable. The first step was redefining the past. The 15-year friendship became a 15-year estrangement. The terrific guy became someone he was not a fan of. This historical revisionism was relentless and consistent. It was repeated so often that for his supporters, it became the new truth. The second step was deflection. Questions about his relationship with Epstein were met with attacks on the fake news media or accusations against his political rivals. This changed the subject and put his questioners on the defensive. It shifted the focus from his past judgment to the supposed bias of the people asking the questions. The final and most potent tactic was the embrace of conspiracy. By signaling his support for QAnon and questioning the circumstances of Epstein's death, he tapped into a powerful undercurrent of public distrust. He framed the entire inquiry as a hoax or a witch hunt, a deep state plot to destroy him. This transformed him from a potential subject of scrutiny into the primary victim. For his followers, any evidence connecting him to Epstein was no longer seen as a legitimate concern, but as proof of the conspiracy against him. This narrative was emotionally powerful and effectively inoculated his base against the damaging facts of the case. This case study reveals the immense power of modern political communication to shape reality. In an era of fractured media and deep partisan division, a charismatic leader can construct an alternate reality for their followers. The objective truth of the public record becomes just one version of the story, competing with a more emotionally appealing narrative of persecution and conspiracy. Trump's handling of the Epstein connection shows that with a large enough megaphone and a loyal enough audience, it is possible to survive a scandal not by disproving the facts, but by rendering them irrelevant to the people who matter most. Focusing solely on Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein misses the broader implications. This is about the systems that enabled them, where wealth and power create a protective shield. Epstein thrived in a system that celebrated wealth, excusing the rich and looking away from uncomfortable truths. The legal system failed, prioritizing the comfort of a wealthy man over his victims. It was a two-tiered system of justice. Elite social systems played a role. Epstein used wealth and connections to build respectability, surrounding himself with influential people. This provided cover for his dark activities. This forces us to confront difficult questions about accountability and equal justice. The story of Trump and Epstein reveals deep cracks in our foundations, showing how systems can be manipulated to protect the powerful. It's about the systemic failures that allowed him to flourish. Today is May 24, 2024. Yet, the shadow of their connection lingers. The story touches upon the corrupting influence of wealth and the hidden abuses of power. The names Trump and Epstein, now permanently linked, have become a shorthand for a world of elite impunity. The unanswered questions ensure that this story will continue to fascinate and disturb. For the victims, the shadow is a daily reality. Ultimately, the shadow of Trump and Epstein serves as a permanent warning of the danger of unchecked power. The story is a mirror held up to our society.